Hey, how's it going everybody? Shaggy from the Order of Mithril here today, and we're going to do a random review of Borderlands 3 today. An old friend of mine, Jason Jones, made the request, so shout out to him for giving me the idea to go ahead and do this video. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So I'm just going to go ahead and get this out of the way right now, and some people probably might be a little upset, maybe not, but I preferred Borderlands 2 to Borderlands 3. At least in a narrative sense. I felt like the story was a little bit better in Borderlands 2 as opposed to Borderlands 3. I also found the jokes and the humor to be a lot funnier in Borderlands 2. And I think that's because it was written by Anthony Birch as opposed to him not being on the Borderlands 3 game. And a little fun-filled fact is Anthony Birch is the brother of Ashley Birch, who voices Tiny Tina in this game series. And I would strongly recommend that you actually go check out their YouTube channel at Hey Ash What You Playin'. Very, very funny stuff, especially for those people that are hardcore gamers. Let's go ahead and start this review off with the Mayhem mode, which is, as it's been called, a game within a game or proper in-game content by others. And I really do like Mayhem mode in Borderlands because I feel like it's a good way to go back and play older content again without it feeling entirely stale. Now, as you can see, I'm playing on Mayhem Mode 6 here, which isn't the highest. 10 is the highest. I get plus 3,000% health, 3,000% shields and armor. I get extra XP, iridium, and money, and I get better loot quality. But as you can see, I have some other modifiers here, like Speed Demon. I get a boost to speed whenever I kill an enemy. I get Acid Rain. Enemies may be infused with corrosive. Infused enemies are immune to corrosive damage. Healy Avenger enemies have a chance upon death to release a power-up that will heal the first enemy it touches or drop health and shield boosters if destroyed. And Boundary Issues at close range to enemies will attach a damaging elemental beam to you. So I really like how I got these. I didn't feel like the game was overly complicated or hard for the build I had in place at the time. But these modifiers are picked at random whenever you start up the game, and I believe after a certain period of time when you transfer to a new location. But it gave me a reason to actually diversify a build. And when Mayhem 1 launched into the game, it was very lackluster. It actually kind of limited the way people could play the game at the time. So people playing Amara were pretty much locked into one build. Zane, one build. Flak, one build. Mose, she had a couple of different builds, but they didn't feel special because it seemed like you were just using Iron Bear to proc certain anointments. So it wasn't really all that great. But now with Mayhem Mode 2 out, there's a little bit more reason for you to diversify your build instead of specializing into certain skills or abilities. You can actually have a little bit more open-endedness to your build now, which I really enjoy. Looking at the narrative now, yes, I did prefer Borderlands 2 story to Borderlands 3 story, but that was because of the humor that Anthony Birch injected throughout the whole thing. There was only one overly serious moment when Roland died in Borderlands 2, and it kind of seemed like they were trying to double down on that in Borderlands 3 with Lilith disappearing at the end of the game, Maya being absorbed by one of the twins. I feel like they tried to go for a more serious tone, and I'm not saying that it was a bad story. What I'm saying is that I feel like the story for this one kind of suffered because it came from that very goofy, lighthearted, sophomorish humor that Anthony Birch put into the game for Borderlands 2. I think that if Borderlands 2 story would have been a little bit closer to Borderlands 3 to begin with, that I wouldn't have had some of the issues with the story for this game that I did. Not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying that going from a more lighthearted, goofy game to a much more serious tone did have its drawbacks, and that was only because they switched writers. I still think that it's a good story that any gamer should, take in. Now, a narrative may be great, maybe spectacular, but if the actors playing the parts in the story aren't that good, your narrative is going to fall flat. It's not going to leave an impact, and not a lot of people are going to remember it. So I was really happy to see that there were some returning names to reprise their roles from the previous titles, like Jamie Marche, Jason Liebrick, Martha Harms, Bruce Du Bois, Jason Douglas, and Colleen Klinkenbeard. And now I'm familiar with Colleen from works outside of Borderlands. She does a lot of work in anime for English dubs, which I really enjoy most of the work that she's done in those. But I was also happy to see some new characters get brought to life by other famous people that I felt really delivered. And that would be like Chris Hardwick playing Vaughn, Ice-T playing Balex, and Penn and Teller playing those crazy sadistic psychos. Speaking of casts and characters, there's one other little thing that I wanted to touch on while I was, had that present in my head, was the return of Zero for Borderlands 3. Even though he wasn't a playable character, I still loved all his little haikus that he had in Borderlands 2, and whenever you do interact with him in the game, he still speaks in haiku, and it's still one of my favorite things about him as a character. He was off the wall because he's supposed to be a robot, and he always talks in haiku, and he's very skilled at what he does. So he was one of my favorite characters to play as in the last game, and getting to see him in this game was great. I'm hoping that at some point in the future, maybe we'll get to revisit him as a playable character. Maybe Borderlands 4, they don't add new characters, and we can just pick from all the characters from the previous games. I think that'd be kind of cool, but just a personal opinion that I wanted to throw in there real quick. Looking at the way the game plays overall, I really do enjoy it. It's the Borderlands formula. There's nothing really to hate on it, at least not in my opinion. I like how it wasn't overly punishing on normal mode, but you could increase the difficulty. And then, like I've already touched on previously in the video, when it comes down to the Mayhem mode, you can adjust the difficulty, and whenever you're ready for a harder challenge, you can go ahead and take that on whenever you want to. So I like how the gameplay was a little bit more open-ended in the difficulty. It was very user-friendly in my opinion. I like how the improvements came into this one. I loved Borderlands 2. There were some issues with it that kind of frustrated me here and there, but I feel like going from 2 to 3, they really polished it up from 2 to 3. So I'm really happy with that. I like the way everything just seems to flow and function in this one a lot better than 2. Another thing that I feel like they did better in 3 as opposed to 2 was the audio. The music sounds better. It's a little bit more pumped whenever you start getting into like the weeds, or whenever you're taking on a boss battle. I like how everything just seems to fit. Like whenever you're facing off against, Trant for the first time, that very pumped up music that just gets you into the boss battle mode was great. But even in true Borderlands fashion, like whenever you fight Katagawa Ball, you had Digby Vermouth, a smooth jazz artist of this world, playing in the background, and it was just funny. It added a different vibe and feel to that specific boss battle as opposed to some of the others. I like how the enemies scream. I like the banter that they have. I like the way that the characters interact with each other whenever you're playing in co-op. I like even the stupid snide remarks that you get from other characters in the game, whether they be enemies or NPCs. I like the way the guns sound. I like the way the explosions sound. The special effects that happen whenever you use one of your abilities. It all sounds really great, and I think it was a definite improvement from 2 to 3. Though I've already kind of touched on this with the Mayhem mode topic, I'm going to go ahead and touch on the replayability of the game. And I feel like it has a certain level of replayability even beyond just the different Mayhem modes and modifiers that you can get. I also feel that being able to play through with a different character, you could at least play the game 4 times with each 4 of the characters that are in the game so far, and really enjoy a different way that the game plays out, because each character has their own little things that they say and do to certain points of the game, but they all play, drastically different than the one before. So I really liked how I could go back and do that again. As of right now, I have just 2 characters, and I keep going back and playing the Mayhem modes instead of starting a new character, because I just feel like I'm sinking my teeth into that Mayhem mode pretty well. One of the other things that I did really enjoy about this game was the little limited time events that would happen, like the little mini DLCs, like for instance the Cartel one that was out not too long ago. It's a reason for you to come back and give you a little bit more replayability into the game, but it also changes the loot pool, gives you something else to chase. Maybe you have every other, great gun or shield in the game, but whenever they put one of these out, it's always accompanied with new things to chase after. So I really enjoyed that. So even if you don't buy the other DLCs, it gives you a reason to come back and play the game and maybe interest you in picking up those other DLCs, which sadly I haven't yet, I'll be completely honest. So what I would like for you guys to do is go ahead and jump down into the comment section below. Let me know what your favorite thing about Borderlands 3 was, if the DLCs are really all that great and if they're worth purchasing. And also to let me know what else you would like to see me review on this channel. But thanks again for stopping by the channel, guys, and I hope you guys have a great day.